Katie Myers says, in my opinion, they want us to not know history so they don't know what they're doing. It's funny. I have this book sitting on my desk. It's actually a textbook that used to be taught in schools. It's called What You Should Know About Communism and Why. And we're actually, like, a bunch of us in my locals community bought this book just because this used to be taught in schools. And now we wanted to, like, preserve it by having physical copies because this is not taught in schools anymore. They don't want us. Like, I never learned about this stuff in school. I have a book sitting for me, waiting for me to read downstairs on the Cultural Revolution, because I think that, it's so important that all of us understand the things that you went through in China and how it very well could happen in a place like this. And I think a lot of people think that it can't happen in America. What message would you send to them?
Well, people sometimes do ask me question, what is the difference between socialism and communism? And how about democratic socialism? I understand they really don't know the difference. That I always tell them at the beginning, Mao wanted to have socialist country in China too. He promised all the free stuff, all the special benefits to certain groups, and nothing happened. By the time 1956 and 7, after founding of China of 1949, he basically turned to full-blown communist country. There's no more private properties left. All the land, all the resources, all the factories belong to the state. And so people say, I always tell people, the communists know this. That's why Lenin said the goal of socialism is communism. There are different methods. The communism enslaved people by force, by violence. Like Mao said, the political power comes out a barrel of gun. Only government allowed to have guns. But then socialism enslaved people by votes. You see what happened in Cuba, what happened in Venezuela, and so gradually they get the people buy into their rhetorics, their free stuff, their empty promises, their class struggles between the oppressed and the oppressors, between the haves and have-not. It's typical, like a Marxist tactic. So divided people. So they buy into your stuff rhetorics. They vote for you. Who knows? How many people voted for those kind of system? Guess what? They're starving now. Venezuela people are starving. They are eating dogs and cats. I had to eat rats. They're eating dogs and cats. We were not even allowed to have dogs and cats. Maybe raise some bunny rabbits if you were really starving, for your food supply. So that's why the young people, they don't learn history. So all they hear is America is bad. Have they studied other countries? Do they want to go to other countries to live there? Just for a year to try out? When you go to China today, guess what? You're being watched. The 300 million public cameras to recognize your face in all the public places. And you're going to scan your face when you enter China's borders. And if you say anything as a foreigner, as an American citizen against Chinese government, be aware, just because you have American citizenship does not guarantee you safety. Even in Hong Kong, you can get arrested because they have national security law now. Anybody say anything against the government, you can go get locked up. That's how serious this is. So that's why I feel my stories are so important. Whatever reason is, there's some people will not come out publicly. But I feel like I was silenced for 24 years in China. I feel very alone. I couldn't share my thoughts with anybody because they could turn me over to the government. So I'm here in America, in the state of New Hampshire, live free or die state. I'm not going to be silenced. I'm ready to debate, have a conversation with anybody who might disagree with me, because I see my fellow citizens are not my enemies, because we all just want the best for our country, our kids, but it's the people who don't know what's going on. I want to reach out to them and talk about this.
Absolutely. Now, both you and I have been working very hard to try to advocate for HB 544, which would, effectively ban some of these more divisive concepts by being funded by taxpayer dollars to be taught in organizations and to be done in I think teacher training programs. Why do you think that HB 544 is an important bill to pass in New Hampshire?
Well, I heard actually we are taking the leadership in the country to be the first state to pass this bill. The critical race theory, basically is, I think that people might not know so much detail of it because they just all of a sudden been pushed into our society where people are asleep. They're based on a false foundation. The white people are born racist. Mm-hmm. So it's purely based on the identity politics. If you are white, you were born with privileges. You are racist, so you are guilty. You need to confess and apologize, pay reparations, and denounce yourself, and to become actively anti-racist. It's like, but this whole theory is racist purely based on your skin and something you have no control over when you are born, and you're supposed to feel bad about your ancestors' history. Does that sound familiar? I just told you about black classes in
It does.
South China.
Well, it's funny because this professor at UVM who just kind of posted a video today about it, I was talking to him like a week or so ago, and he was telling me about this other professor he works with who actively he confesses his white privilege all the time when he's teaching, to the point where he's in tears about the fact that he's a man and he's white, and it's like, it's constant. And to me, that is just, it is absolutely sick to hate yourself so much because of how you were born.
That's what I'm saying. It happened during the Cultural Revolution in China. You hate yourself, you hate your family, you apologize, you cry, you ask for forgiveness. They even divided, right? Now they want to evaluate your own whiteness into 8 to 10 categories. There's a good one, there's a really bad one, really good one. And then it's the same with the black classes. They want you to go to details. How black are you? Here's how white are you? Depends your behavior, speeches. So if you apologize, take a knee, beg for forgiveness, and raise your face, join them, public shaming other people. Oh, maybe you're less white. You're not as bad as you were born really white, or something like that. It's insanity. How do people live in a country with human dignity? You cannot control your color. You cannot control that the previous history, what happened, we're not proud of. But hey, you're not a slave owner today, are you? And I want to also speak for minorities. We all come to this country as an immigrant, no matter what color you have, including people of color in this country. What stopped you today to go out, to work, to save, and to take a responsibility for yourself, for your happiness? You have a vice president whose family come from other countries as immigrant, and she achieved her American dream. She's our vice president. So what stops you? Why do they have to continue to sell this racism to our kids? I think lots of minorities feel the way I do. Please, progressive, don't speak for us. We love America. We want to come here to achieve our American dream. We want all the people here achieve their American dream. This is the melting pot. We are probably still the shining city on the hill for freedom in the world. Just please don't speak for us, okay? Go mind if you feel like bad, about your whiteness, denounce yourself, but don't force other good American people to apologize.